I remember the first Happy Feet. I thought it was very good. It was a movie with an environmental message that delivered it through inspired song and dance with, out of all creatures, penguins. And I was like, wow, this is amazing to look at. I'm enjoying this. And I look at Happy Feet 2 and I say, dancing penguins. Wow, that's stupid. It really didn't turn me around that way.
Well, in all fairness, this movie's barely about dancing. I mean, there's penguins, but all the song and dance that made the first one so much fun, it's over in the first 10 minutes.
This movie might as well have been a fucking Icebreakers fucking commercial because I got the same reaction I did watching one of those fucking commercials and watching this movie where I look at it, I stare blindly and stupidly into it, and then I leave. And I have no idea what it was about.
I mean, I hate to be the voice of dissent here, even though I probably agree with you on the whole about how I actually felt about this movie. But I didn't like the first one. I thought it felt like watching a really crappy karaoke video with a bunch of songs I didn't like in the first place with overly cute penguins. If I'm going to watch people actually sing and dance, then sure, I'm impressed. That's not easy for people to do that. But these are cartoon penguins, and they all look the same. Not impressed. This one had less singing and dancing. I liked it more. Just saying.
So would you not? Are you opposed to any animated character dancing then?
No. I'm just saying that's all it was. The first one, and I got bored. I was like, okay, when are we gonna wrap this up? This was like the extra features on a Shrek DVD. You know?
Wow, man. I couldn't disagree with you more.
Well, I know a lot of people liked it.
Look, it's not the kind of music that you like or grew up with.
So
it had no place for you. Like to me, when I saw the first Happy Feet, I was like, okay, I can see this is what you saw in Moulin Rouge. I get it here, but doing animation, you say it's easy. It's not. And coordinating animation like that, especially with Savion Glover's tap dancing, the way it married all those things together, and it was some of the best CGI of one of these kind of 3D CG animated movies that had come out at the time. I thought it was an amazing feat.
I tell you what was so impressive about it, even more so since the penguins were more realistic than we'd see in other animated movies, is that the choreography in this they did with creatures that they don't have the anatomy to do these kind of moves. And so I was impressed that they were able to do that with the limitations that a penguin has. Now, this film here, they do a little bit of that, but it doesn't feel as natural because, I don't know, the first movie with the musical numbers that they had in it, that felt inspired for some reason. The songs made sense. I don't remember enough to know why, but they didn't seem like they were just picking out the biggest hits or the most urban hits or the most street hits or whatever is hip, that the kids would like. It's like, some of these songs kids probably wouldn't like, but they lend itself to the telling of the story. This movie right here, everything that made that first movie so special for me is sucked out of this film just for the sake of making a sequel. That's what this movie says. It's just somebody saying we got to do this.
Yeah, it does the very opposite of the first film. In the opening sequence, because they immediately start going. They start with Rhythm Nation. It's like, all right, that's not one of necessarily the greats, but it's up there enough. Let's see where they go with it. And then they get into the little kid rapping stuff. It's like, all right, now y'all just turn into Alvin and the Chipmunks. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, because I've never seen the first one, and watching the second one makes me not want to see the first one. Because, I felt confused because I'm like, well, maybe I'll get to know what these characters are about once all the singing and dancing, all the hoopla ends. And it doesn't. The problem with this movie is that they had no focus whatsoever in this film. There was way too many goddamn storylines that they were trying to string together, and they felt like, okay, well, this isn't working right now, so let's move on. Let's do a dance number. And I'm like, oh, okay. And that's how the movie felt like throughout the entire film. I'm like, I don't even know what to focus on. I don't even know, besides the main plot, which, it's there, but they introduced so many characters, so many other things going on outside of it that it just left me confused the whole time.
You're not wrong. Yeah. There was way too much crazy shit going on. Mm-hmm. And when there was a song, it didn't feel like a relief from the plot because they weren't good songs. You're right. They're like little rapping penguins. I don't know. I didn't feel like the first one's songs were that much better, but I'm in the minority on that. The one thing I did like better here was, like I said, at least it wasn't constantly songs. Here, there was actually attempts to have like little stories, and as dumb as they were, they made me laugh at points. There's a whole subplot with the two little Krill with Matt Damon and Brad Pitt.
The gay Krill?
Yeah, they made me laugh consistently.
Are you serious?
Every single time they were on, that made me laugh.
Wow, they so did not make me laugh. Like to me, these like, okay, this is some other lame ass movie that somebody wrote that they couldn't get off the ground, so they crowbarred these two into this movie. And every time they show up, they had nothing to do with the plot at all. They said shit that wasn't funny, like, hey, okay, they're quasi gay maybe, and then it's off away from them. And then every time they bring them on, I'm like, this has nothing.
You know, before we get into all these characters, co-host.
Yes.
So you said you hadn't seen the first Happy Feet.
No, sir.
Well, give you a little background. The main character in that movie, Mumbles, is played by Elijah Wood. He was a little penguin in there. He didn't have happy feet at first. He had to find his happy feet, and he did.
Through song and dance?
Through song and dance.
Oh,
yes, he did.
my
He grew up to
goodness.
be.
That's not true.
Okay, well,
I thought you saw it. Wait a minute.
that's a long time ago.
Consult the expert.
Yeah. So what happened?
What it was is that all the penguins sang. They all sang, and yet he was the one who couldn't sing. He's tone deaf. But what he could do is tap dance. And so they treated him like an outcast. But he kind of comes back in his own. Like, look, I can dance just as good as y'all can sing, and he has to show them. But he also there's a point of him leaving, coming back. There's an environmental message that comes to the end. And matter of fact, there's a point when he gets captured, and it almost gets really kind of dark and sad for him.
Oh,
Yeah,
so he
actually-
brought the step into the fetching.
Yeah.
Is that what-
In fact, I think the penguins even told him, they said, hey, black dances for black people. Don't do that around here.
Now they try to recapture this with this movie because it starts out with his son, which I can't remember what his son's name was.
So Mumbles in this is
Yes.
he's a grown penguin. Now he's a man penguin.
Okay.
And he's got a family now. In fact, he's got a little penguin of his own named Eric. And Eric is not like his father at all. He ain't got those smooth moves like Pops does. So he gets made fun of, trips over his own 2 feet, pees on himself, and decides to, just take off. Screw these people. I'm going to get my 2 friends and leave. Well, while he's roaming around, he runs into a group of other penguins, and one special penguin in particular, Sven the Great, I believe, is what his name is. Sven, yeah, and voiced by Hank Azaria. And the reason why Sven, whatever his name is, so special because he's a penguin that can fly. And so he says, hey, look, you want to be like me, kid, obey your father right. He was coming to look for you. Go back home with him, and one day you'll be a great penguin like me. Well, when they get back home, turns out, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I really don't understand what happened.
Yeah, there's too many things going on.
Yeah, I think what happens is there's a shift in the earth or something. Anyway, the valley that these penguins are in is surrounded by walls of ice now. They can't get out. They're going to starve to death if no one can help them out. So it's about time for little Eric to get his Bojangles ass to step in and get down like Chris Brown and go ahead and see what he can do to help if he ever wants to save his friends and family. And that's really just a little bit of what's happening because there's a whole lot more. In fact, I would say, and I don't know how you feel, Cyrus, because you liked it. I would say that there's too much going on in here. That's another thing that the first movie had is I think there was a little more simplicity. But this, they have too many subplots that introduce too many characters. We already talked about Will and Bill, the gay shrimp,
The krill.
Yeah, I mean,
Will and Bill, the krill.
and people
a joke they run way into the ground.
And they're voiced by Matt Damon and Brad Pitt. And you think that we're making a joke by saying, "Oh, you guys are so childish." You see 2 male cartoon shrimp, krill, whatever the name.
No, they make the gay jokes.
Yeah, hanging out with each other, but. No, they insinuate that they do love each other.
At least one of them.
At least one of them.
At least
does,
one of them, yeah. That other one's just in the closet.
He doesn't know
he'll
yet.
come around pretty soon.
He's bi.
Yeah. And I agree with you. But I mean, first of all, there's a lot of side characters like that. We're forgetting about the elephant seal. I forgot who he's voiced by, but
Somebody who plays British gangsters a lot.
Yeah.
Probably Ray Winstone. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, he's he there's a huge elephant seal that doesn't want to budge for anybody, much less a penguin. And when they're trying to get home, he won't get out the way. But you can tell that he's going to come in later on in the story and save them with his brute force. You have like a subplot with these birds that come down and threaten the penguins that are trapped in the valley, but and they have voices like Brooklyn, gangsters or something, but you don't really understand what the threat is. All you know about them is dangerous because they say, "Hey, look at those penguins, Mac." That's about it.
Why are these birds attacking these other birds? Was the question. Really, it's like I didn't understand what was happening there. I wouldn't even call them a subplot. They were just a mechanic of the primary plot.
Yeah, you're right.
And the biggest problem with this movie is the main plot is totally uninteresting. It's the birds are trapped by walls of ice, and then you just have to sit and watch that happen for the whole movie. They're just like, okay, we're still trapped,
and see how see how they introduce their singing and dancing to their moment of need,
which is funny because you think there's going to be this great moment where they figure it out. Yes, singing and dancing will save us, and then it totally doesn't.
Well, I guess one of the I thought, okay, this is the main subplot, but apparently it was only one of many. But the whole thing with Sven, you got Hank Azaria once again doing his bad ethnic accents. I've discovered I just don't like Hank Azaria except when he's on The Simpsons, because he really seems to think he's good at these dialects, and they're always overblown and just not that funny.
He was the best thing about the Smurfs.
Yeah, he was.
Wow. But this ain't the Smurfs. Yeah.
And okay, it's interesting that Sven is basically a proponent of the secret. If you believe it, if you will it, it will happen. All you got to do is think positive. It's like, you know what? Shut the fuck up.
And it's weird that Sven became almost a major player in this, because they introduced the character that Robin Williams plays,
He plays two characters.
Oh, okay. Well, Robin Williams, he's playing a Spanish character.
He's
Spanish,
Ramon,
and he's also like the
Lovelace,
the fat penguin with the sweater on.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
well, the Ramon character, though, it seems like Ramon's going to have such a bigger part in this story, because you see the little penguin run off with him, because he's like, well, hey, I've been rejected my whole life. Just hang out with me. I'll show you how to get through it. And that plot is completely gone.
You know what? They started with that, and then they realized, wait, that was the plot of the first movie.
Wow.
Oh shit, we got to do something else.
Well, they come up with a subplot for him that is I guess supposed to be romantic. I mean, the only reason it's there is so Robin Williams has something to do with that character.
Yeah.
Like his other character, like the new one, okay, at least he somewhat figures into the plot, but even so, I was trying to figure out why he was necessary to it at all, because it seems to me like the so-called flying penguin, I don't know why we can't just say what he is. I mean, anybody who's ever
as soon as you look at him, you know what he is.
I know. It's not like it's a spoiler.
I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck he was.
But it's like that other character.
I was stupid enough.
Williams is like, well, you haven't done anything with Ramon. I need another character in there. Right. You add somebody else for me. Because I'm Robin Williams and I'm covered with
bring back Lovelace. I'll play two characters again. But you know what?
Again. I have to admit, the Brad Pitt characters, him and Matt Damon, when they first were introduced, I honestly thought, wow, okay, this is something I can latch on to, because there's nothing else going on in this movie.
Yeah.
But where I thought their introductions were great, but it just seemed like halfway through, it's like they ran out of ideas for them, even though with those two running around throughout the movie, when their scenes are of them just exploring the ocean, I thought, if I'm going to give any credit to this film, those scenes where you see like their huge horde of krill, I thought those were the most beautiful images that this movie had to give, as far as just them exploring.
That was a big part of it for me, why I enjoyed their subplot more than anything else in the movie. It's because they had the most interesting visual stuff going on in their scenes.
Easily.
Whether it was that stuff and just showing the wonders of the undersea, or anytime there was fast moving, cool looking camera stuff, it was because they were holding on to something that was moving real fast, and we're seeing from their point of view. It was like, okay, they're more interesting to me because of that, if nothing else. Well, God knows the rest of the story.
No, you're right. I agree with you. I think that, like the first Happy Feet, I thought it looked amazing, and I think this movie looks equally amazing, even more so than the first film in certain scenes. That whole thing with the little two homo shrimp, they look. No, there's so many scenes of them, their subplot, and if you almost see it, it takes its own path. It's almost like that little crackhead squirrel in Ice Age. Yeah, where you follow something that will somehow fit its way into the story later, but really is its own story for most of the movie. Their whole deal is that they want to break apart from the group. They're in such a mass of krill that it's a big glowing pink universe for them almost, and they're trying to break free from it.
This is our moment, Bill.
Okay.
Adapt or die, my friend.
Adapt? There's no telling what we might become.
Fine. Be a plankton muncher all your life.
But that's what we are. We're herbivores. We eat veggies.
Right. So everyone else can eat us. Well, I, for one, am not prepared to be on the menu any longer.
Where are you going? I'm moving up the food chain. The food chain? I'm gonna go chew on something that has a face.
And when they're so tiny that when they do break free from that incredible visual there, you see them going through like another world for them. I mean, it's so miniature that they go through like a chainsaw, which is almost like going through a factory, and then the camera follows that. And I'm like, man, that is really amazing to look at. If only Will and Bill would shut the fuck up, because everything they say is like, where's Bill? I've lost the will to live.
Yeah.
We've just written a bill for death. And I'm just
that
like,
was the worst. Yeah.
Go to fucking New York and get married and shut up. You know,
I hand it to you, Leon. And after a certain point, they were not funny anymore. But I thought at first they were very funny.
No, well, I thought they had potential at first. I was like, it's like, okay, here's something new, and hey, it's Matt Damon and who?
I'm awaiting.
I got it.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon and Brad Pitt. So you're like, okay, we'll see what they're gonna do. But after a while, I'm like, wow, they're just talking to fill space, and they won't say anything funny. And if you're not, then get off the screen.
Yeah,
Stop it.
you know, at some point,
there's too much going on.
I wish they would have made a Mad Lib, because I guarantee you those two guys together, if they're even in the same room together, they probably could have come up with a lot more interesting plot than what they gave them. I mean, that's unfortunate, and that's the saddest part about this movie, because all those subplots, they end up like that story. I mean, they really do.
I just had the shrimp. I would have liked for them to just come out and just be a gay stereotype. Just have one of them just say, hey, you know, I don't.
Seriously,
I don't
Neil
care.
Patrick Harris wasn't available.
He would have done it.
Too busy doing
He would have done it better.
Kumar.
I'd rather see that in its own movie and not like subjected to the rest of the shit.
Well, and that's the thing with Bill and Will. It's like it really felt like that was an idea for a different movie, and they just thought we don't have enough for a whole movie. Let's piggyback it on.
Like they had started developing it and had built the characters already, and they're like, you know what, the movie didn't get greenlit, but let's try and pitch it as something to attach to another film.
Yeah.
And I can see that, and I think in that context there wasn't too much of them on the whole. I mean, they're really a very small part of this film, and I thought it was just enough that I never really got irritated with them. I mean, it wasn't very much of the film, which is to say the rest of the main characters I did get sick of. Strangely, I was relieved every time Robin Williams was on screen, one of his characters, because even though they had nothing to do with the plot, they were at least occasionally funny as opposed to everything else in the film.
True. I guess I kind of liked Elijah Wood in that he seemed to be the only one, Mumbles, who's just like, really? Everybody's following this Finn? What?
Yeah.
Come on, son. Don't do that. It was almost like that Chaz Palminteri movie, A Bronx Tale. Yeah. I wish he could have gone that way.
Yeah, well, I don't know, man. You liked Robin Williams in this. See, in the last movie, Robin Williams has, he has his stock voices that he does, which they have started to grate on my nerves at this point. But in Happy Feet, I don't know, I was so taken in by the movie that I was like, I don't mind this character of Ramon, and because he's doing, that Latin voice he likes to do, and then he does the black preacher with whatever
with Lovelace,
and I'm like, in the context of the story in this movie, I like it. This just sequel for the sake of being a fucking sequel. He got back to that thing that got on my nerves.
I think they must have wrote better stuff for him, because I felt the same way. Like, even seeing his name in the credits, I was like, oh great, he's got his black preacher, his southern preacher, his gay guy, his Latin guy. What's he going to do? And yet in the first Happy Feet, I was like, wow, he did these characters, and I actually liked them every time. But here, I'm torn between what both of you are saying, because I was like, wow, it's him doing these, and they don't have much for him. But he's not in it that much, and he was one of the brighter spots, because when he went to anybody else, it's like, well, this is just Dullsville.
You're right. Because when I saw his name on screen, I was like, oh God. I was like, I was really cringing to see what he was going to do. And when I first heard him do the Spanish thing, I'm like, okay, am I going to be offended by this or what? But I was like, all right, he's actually funny. They're actually giving him something to do. The character, it fits the character. Which you're telling me he played
Lovelace, yeah.
I was shocked. I did not know that was him.
Oh yeah.
I was like, whoa, okay. I had no fucking clue. But yeah, I mean, I thought, those two guys that he played, they had their moments. They had their fun moments, but like I said, once again, it gets drowned out by the rest of the noise of this film.
Yeah, you're right. I think Robin Williams, it didn't bother me through the whole film. It's just that it was more transparent here. I tell you what it was. I mean, it was him, sleepwalking. He phoned that in for this, and I was just like,
everyone phoned it in.
Yeah,
everyone did.
Yeah, they did, and the voices that they have in there, they don't do much. Brittany Murphy died, so they couldn't get her back to do the voice. They got Pink. I mean, that could have been any chick.
Could have been. You're right.
Yeah, that could have been anybody. That could have been Dr. Doom for all I can. But and then they had Common, and they got like certain people that just to talk urban. You could tell this movie.
Oh.
No offense, Cyrus, but this movie was.
It
was written. And when I say white people, when I say white people, I'm not talking about all white people. We got
not you, Cyrus.
Yeah, not
cool.
you.
I don't care. You can make fun of white people.
No. We're talking about corny white people like we got Eminem now. Come on, but you're
talking about Hallmark white people.
Yeah. Let me put it this way: you would never be put in a room and be told, "Hey, write some black, urban, funky, street smart dialogue." You would never do that. Would you?
No, they don't. Nobody comes to my table at Cracker Barrel and goes, "Hey, we need someone to write a great upbeat funk song."
Okay, guys, let's write that hippity hop urban stuff that the black kids and the cool white kids like. It's like, that's what they did here. Because
they write stuff. It's like where you're like, black people haven't said that in 15 years.
And they don't.
Maybe Will Smith, but no other.
Yeah, I know. Right? He ain't helping.
Yeah, he's a safe brother, and he knows that I'll cut him that.
He got the charm.
He's not scary. He's getting some checks for that. I don't blame him. Brother got to make his living. He got a family.
Right?
But
boy is a double stuff.
Damn.
But they got penguins who are not only saying things, because, for example, they got Common. They got Common for no reason other than he's like, "Yo, man, I can't jump that far." It's like, for real? Come on now. And then they got like the little penguins that talk black, and they showed in the trailer, and Cyrus and I looked at each other and like, this is going to be horrible. We cannot, we dread going to see this movie. It's when the little penguin came out of Rhythm Nation, and then you heard them penguins in the background. And that little penguin popped out between somebody's legs. Don't call it a comeback. And with those fins, he was doing those moves from the 80s. Yo, I've been here for years. Washing my clothes with cheers. I was like, wow. And then they got him with another black penguin who was like, yo, my bad, man. Well, I didn't mean to take your son along, man. And it was like at this point, why don't y'all just have a bunch of penguins from the other side of the Antarctica come by and do a drive-by on all these.
But it is Antarctica. I mean, they're probably just now getting VCR.
They're just now watching old episodes of Martin.
Exactly. That is true. Wow, that's cool.
They're not exactly up
I think
to
the
date.
UPN dumped all their tapes over there.
So you're saying these
gotta get rid
penguins
of
just
this
caught
shit.
up on being hit now?
Yeah, no. They're like those aliens who get the signals of I Love Lucy way decades later. Yeah.
Okay, no wonder that fucking penguin had a high top fade.
Exactly.
and they wearing Cosby sweaters,
And they are black and white, so they're either disposed to be being Oreos or Wiggers.
That is true. That is true. No wonder I saw that penguin with that African medallion on.
Maybe that should have been the main plot to figure this all out. But
In fact, I heard Will Smith is big with these penguins over there. Hey, it's the Fresh Prince.
He's giving out acting classes.
Don't you get it? It doesn't matter how they sound. They're all just penguins on the outside. It's okay.
This is something that I've seen. George Miller, right?
The Road Warrior.
Road Warrior.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I feel like I keep getting hit by a brick every time somebody says. I was like, "What? Really?"
But we're talking about the same George Miller that did Babe.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that there's only been one case where I've seen them actually do like a sequel that was amazing, and that of course is the Road Warrior sequel to Mad Max. Now it's debatable how people feel about that third Mad Max movie.
Well, generally very well
people
received.
generally like it. I mean, they acknowledge it's not as good as the first
Yeah,
two.
it's weaker, but
And there's a lot of people, I'm not one of them, but there's a lot of people who like the second Babe more than the first one.
that amazes me because this right here makes me think about the same. Like, okay, Babe and Babe Pig in the City makes me think about Happy Feet and Happy Feet 2. Babe just seemed so sweet, so sincere,
genuine,
and very genuine. And then they got to Babe in the City, and it was all these people who were dressed like Mad Max characters. They were in leather and weird characters with weird cars, and the city was all kind of everywhere. And it was like this just doesn't seem to.
I remember seeing the last part of Babe, Pig in the City, and all I thought, I was shocked when I found out who directed it because I was like, wow, this is like what you're ripping yourself off. You're like cannibalizing your own material here, and it sucks because that first movie. You'd figure a director would like love that first movie so much and not want to do another one because
Right.
you don't want to taint that water. And with this one, I guess he did that again because from what I saw from Babe 2, the last part I saw where it's so crazy, that's what it felt like watching this movie.
Well,
it was so insane. I couldn't put it together.
Well, he's been trying to get the fourth Mad Max off the ground for a long time now, and I know one of the big problems has been just money, quite plain and simple. And maybe we just saw it get paid for.
Yeah, that is true because what I saw here is like I would say that Babe Pig in the City is nowhere near as bad as what I've seen here in Happy Feet 2, just because Happy Feet 2 it really does seem like a studio decision. I like you say, maybe a paycheck for George Miller to get what he wants done. I'll say this finally, the music in this is the biggest letdown for me because it just came out of nowhere. I mean, I don't know. It had no real reason to be in there other than, hey, the kids would like this, or it would fit what's going on with where these characters are at the moment.
Or even just referencing. Like, we got nothing here, so let's just reference a song real quick and not even sing it.
Yeah.
We'll just reference it.
I thought there was one number in there that was so batshit fucking crazy.
Which
it seemed
one?
like the opera number
With the little penguin
was doing.
my
Yes,
father!
my father. Yeah, where I was like, okay, is this from an opera? Is this from any song? But then the movie, he was referencing his dad and what was going on. He's like, you call him a coward, leave him alone. And I'm just like, what? Is this? Did they manage to find the most shitty song in the world and then put it in the movie? I don't understand. Who fucking did this song? That's what I was wondering throughout that whole scene. I was like, wow. Okay, stop this.
The movie stopped for that
It
scene.
did. It really did.
It was like a Vita or something.
I was shocked that the whole theater didn't burst out laughing and just go, what the fuck? What the fuck did just happen to us?
Because that was supposed to be the big plot element. Spoiler there, by the way. That
Is it?
Yeah, of course it is.
Like
Because
Greg
that's
the
the
Elephant
idea is
Seal.
that he can't sing normally, he can't dance normally. The new kid. So what can he do? And his skill is that he's, I guess, in the context of the film, has a gift for opera. So it's like, oh well, there you go. He likes opera.
Okay.
Yet they drop it right after they.
I know.
Really
That's-
awkward
I'm like,
and
yeah.
and you're like, okay,
You're telling me that's a spoiler? I'm like, what?
Well, 'cause that was supposed to be a big plot element. Was the
fool
thing,
me,
That's
yeah.
what the kid's special talent is.
There was I will say this, and I'm not kidding. There was sounded like one big black woman was in the audience who loved that because after that penguin got through singing, you heard somebody like. It was almost like my baby can sing. Did you hear that? Anybody hear that?
No, I didn't hear that.
Maybe I heard it in my head. I don't know. Okay, it was me.
It was you. I was sitting next to you. You were humming along. I love this song. I always cry, Pagliacci.
The visuals in this movie are still incredible, and they're incredible in some of the parts, as I mentioned earlier, where I didn't even like the characters, and the visuals carried me through that. Oh, I would give this. I would give it a rental, just a rental. It is a letdown, but a pretty letdown.
Yeah, it's a huge letdown to me because even seeing trailers that didn't look good, I had such a love for the first one. I was like, still some of that might shine through, and they really stripped away just everything I liked about the first one. I just felt betrayed, and with the first movie, them using music from the 70s, it was at a time when that wasn't really that cool, and they really committed to it. Here, they're picking music from 80s and 90s and just kind of half-assing it, just kind of doing a medley and then moving on to, like we said, multiple subplots that go nowhere. To me, this movie felt so like it was done by committee. Like they had a group of people who had to agree on everything that went in, and some people like, I want my project in there. All right, well, if yours gets in, then this pet project I want to do gets thrown in there as well. It's just much like Twilight, it's another sequel that's just a big money grab for the weekend. And I'm so close to giving it some old bullshit, but
tears coming at your eyes.
I just won't go quite that far. But it's a low rental to me.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't hate this film at all. In fact, I did kind of enjoy it on a certain sort of like I was expecting just to watch more of what I didn't like in the first one, which was just 2 hours of penguins singing and dancing, which is not entertaining to me. And I was grateful that that's not what this was, even though admittedly the music that there was here was much worse than the choices that they had in the first one. Wow, were they much worse. But there were points in the animation that kept me going. There were little jokey bits that I thought were funny. I was honestly, it's funny, like I felt like by the end I liked it less than I did as it was going on, because I was going, I honestly want to know where this is going. I am intrigued to figure out where's, and then at the end you're like, oh really? Okay, well that's nothing. But I enjoy it for what it's worth. I mean, it was worth a single watch. I would give it a high rental.
I'm giving it some old bullshit only because I walked out confused as hell, like wondering George Miller did this. And the songs came out of nowhere. Honestly, they didn't serve the plot of the story at all. We've said this a billion times. The multiple storylines didn't go anywhere. The only hope I was hoping they grasp onto were the Krill story. And as good as that started, it went nowhere real quick. So yeah, I can't really. I have no desire to see this movie ever again, ever. Not even for free.
You know what, co-host? I might have to switch over to your side.
Don't you do it?
He makes some good points. He also reminded me of something else. Was how the way they integrated humans in the first movie, it was so obscure and off camera that they just did it in a way to where you weren't sure, was that video or did they CGI it? Here, not only do you see it's clearly video of people, but those actors are hamming it up so much.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, okay, settle down, guys.
Oh, yeah, they have one guy. That was the weirdest thing. Bringing some Queen songs, and they got one guy that talks to, what's that fat ass penguin called?
Lovelace?
Lovelace. He talks to Lovelace by serenading him on an electric guitar.
That's an
doing
I was like,
Yeah.
that's embarrassing, man. And Lovelace is sitting up there jiggling his fat all over the place. I was like, that's
Playing
one
air
point.
guitar,
I was creeped out. I was like, this is more gay than those two fucking shrimp in this movie.
It's just weird. It doesn't serve the story at all. There's no point of it. There's just nothing there. So yeah. I'm giving some old bullshit. Yes, it is.
It does feel like we're like just this close to them taking animated characters in commercials and making movies of them now. Like the
They already did it
The
with
insurance
this.
gecko, is going to get his own series of movies soon.
Yeah.
They're like, fuck it, why not? People will clearly go see absolutely anything that's animated at this point.
Actually, I love your idea. I want to see the next movie when they're not singing. They're just repeating, they're mimicking all black sitcom characters from the 80s.
Was that my idea?
I took it in transfer. I want to see a Martin Penguin. I want to see a Bill Cosby Penguin. And I want the opening of the movie.
Want a different Strokes penguin?
I want a different Strokes Penguin. Well, you know what
Can't
you're
they
talking
just
about.
get the Geico? Can't they just get the Geico character and just have him do an episode of What's Happening?
Mumbles gets killed, and Eric and his little brother get adopted by a polar bear.
by a white polar bear. Yeah.
Who will be drinking Coke the whole time?
Yeah, of course.
And the opening number will be like the opening number to the Cosby Show. And by the way, I'm all for gay shrimp. And in case anybody didn't think I was for that, I felt I was coming across like crustacean.
Oh, don't worry, I believe you.
Okay.
Well, most gay people are funny. They have great
You just made that much worse.
Yeah, I was trying to be cool. And I should have well enough alone.
I just meant they have great sense of humor.
Sure you do.